All right, let's get into this. We usually talk about real people, real companies. But today we're looking at a character who has, and I quote, spent an unreasonable amount of time pretending not to be fictional. So the real question is, who on earth is Brand Mavrick?
So at his very core, Brand Mavrick is what you might call a literary device. He's a fictional co-author, a creation, really. He's designed to be a voice that can say all the uncomfortable things. The stuff that would probably get a real person fired. He's like a buffer, a narrator who has just enough distance to be brutally and sometimes hilariously honest.
And this quote? It just nails it. It perfectly captures the whole paradox of Brand Mavrick. See, he's not just some character in a book. He exists in this weird gray area between what's real and what's made up. He's got a family, a resume, a whole ton of professional baggage, the whole shebang.
To really understand this guy, you gotta go back, way back. We have to start at the very beginning, with the one thing that kind of set the tone for his entire life, his name.
And the whole thing starts with something almost ridiculously simple. His family name was supposed to be Mavrick, with an E, a name that's all about being an independent thinker. But somewhere along the line, a clerk misspelled it. And that little error, it stuck. It became permanent before he even had a chance to be one. And that tiny little mistake, man, it had a huge impact on him. That one wrong letter gave him this lifelong feeling of being just slightly off. Slightly out of register with the world. It's like the perfect metaphor for his whole life, right? Close enough to pass, but never quite fitting in.
His upbringing was, well, it was a study in contrasts. His dad, Martin, was all about restraint, practicality, and he had this kind of constant low-grade anger simmering under the surface. But his mom, Willow, she was the total opposite. Warm, speculative, always talking about gentle theories and herbal stuff. So Brand grew up right in the crossfire of these two opposing forces.
And his summers, they were a whole other story. While his parents and his brother Luke were off traveling the country in a motorhome, Brand was left at home. And in that space, he learned about silence, he threw some legendary parties, and he developed this deep, nagging desire to just be elsewhere. Anywhere that felt a little less arranged and a little more real. So how does a guy like that end up in the corporate world? Well, it led to a career path that was, let's say, unconventional, and for a lot of people, pretty irritating. Believe it or not, it all started with a temp job. He was typing up school lunch menus. I mean, can you imagine? It was the kind of work that demanded pure obedience and absolutely zero creativity. And as you can probably guess, Brand didn't last long playing by those rules.
This is where things get interesting. Instead of just typing what he was told, he started editing. He started meddling. And this is where we first see that dangerous talent of his with words. Suddenly, French fries weren't just French fries anymore. No, they were salt and oil-infused slices of obesity. And he was just getting started. Fish sticks, they became rectangular commitments to lowered expectations. And school pizza was perfectly a circular apology. What started as his own private joke got passed around the office until it landed on just the right person's desk.
And that dangerous talent, well, it got him noticed. Someone at this really powerful firm, the Panopticon Agency, saw his little menu project not as a fireable offense, but as a rare and powerful skill. They got it. They saw the power in that voice, and they hired him.
So his time at Panopticon was a total roller coaster. He shot up through the ranks based on pure talent and this uncanny ability to irritate people into doing better work. It was never about charm. Eventually, a massive public failure got him kicked out, only for him to get hired back later as creative director. But with a catch.
Now, to really understand Brand, you have to look at his brother, Luke, who also wound up working at the same agency. Luke got by on just being likable. He had this sort of harmless, earnest confusion about him. He never rocked the boat. Brand, on the other hand, he unsettled people. He was just pure, raw, incisive talent. And that difference defined everything.
Okay, so that brings us to his life right now. After the big rise and the epic fall, he's basically back where he started, but of course, everything's different now. So he's living in his childhood home again. But now he's there with his wife, Eve, who runs a really successful clothing boutique, and their 11-year-old daughter, who is very, very into D-dang loud electronic music. Oh, and his brother Luke? Yeah,
He's living there too. It's a full house, haunted by the past, but dealing with a very loud present. And remember that catch I mentioned? Here it is. He got rehired as the creative director, a huge job. But as a kind of penance to keep his ego in check, his boss also made him responsible for maintaining the company website. So the smartest, most creative guy in the room was back to doing the digital version of typing up menus. So what's the point of all this? Why are we even talking about this fictional guy? Because when you add it all up, he's more than just a character in a story. He's a cautionary figure. So his purpose in these stories is really clear. He's not the hero. He's meant to be an unreliable guide through the absolute absurdity of the modern workplace. He pops up here and there to give us a peek behind the corporate curtain. And this really gets to the heart of it. Brand represents the quiet, personal cost of being really, really good at the wrong thing. He's a mirror for those corporate systems that say they want creativity, but what they really reward is compliance. And maybe most importantly, he embodies that nagging suspicion that we all have sometimes, that the names and the roles we're given early on just stick, whether they're right for us or not. Which brings us to one last question, and it's a big one. Think about Brand's whole story, misnamed from the very first day, always feeling out of register. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What name, what label, what role, what identity was assigned to you early on? And was it ever corrected?